It's actually not going to be tuned, though.
Okay, I'm glad.
We'll find out here in a second. Because Endemic opted for first pick, and Team Freedom said, well, we'll just go right down the list of our favorite battlegrounds. Endemic banning out Volsky, I think it's very important to note. If you can take one map off of Team Freedom when it's Sky Temple or Infernal Shrines, at that point it's like, okay, where does Team Freedom find their success? They love the macro-oriented battlegrounds. They love it to where they can rotate around. Outside of Volskaya, where they have a very good record to just hold on to a point and use their just raw mechanical skill in a lot of those sustained fights, if you can take one of these off of Team Freedom, it's a 5-game series.
Yeah.
You take away you take one off of their best 2 battlegrounds, you can't ignore all of them. So you give those up, and then if you can take one, steal one away, and then try and cycle it through, and then get to home turf on your own territory beyond that, and just try and close out the series. But Endemic, this is how good Team Freedom is that it's easier said than done.
Yeah. It's one of those, we can tell you the math problem before, but it doesn't mean that you're going to find the solution for it, even if you got time to prep for it. It's a difficult thing, and that's a lot of that comes down to just some of the small choices in each and every game and how they are going to add up to the bigger picture and framework kind of at hand here. But game 1, for the most part, outside of 2 decisions that I think was grasping a little bit too much in too many situations from Endemic, I liked their approach. I thought they had a really good idea of how to be able to handle this, and so I'm not so sold that this Infernal Shrines goes over towards Freedom. I think it's definitely favored, but Endemic didn't just bend over to the Greymane strategy.
I think the one thing to kind of put this in is that Octalysis, they came out, they said, look, we're going to draft our way, we're going to force teams to adapt to us. They've been successful. Team Freedom, they've been doing that a long time. Yeah. They said, we're going to draft a certain way, we're going to play a map in a very macro-oriented sense, but not in a traditional sense that you're used to. Every other team will play it a certain way, we're going to play it our way. It's hard to ignore that when a team does things so well. And Team Freedom, and I think it's one of the reasons why we're highlighting Team Freedom a lot in this, is that they do force you to play their game a lot when they have very specific battlegrounds and very specific strategies. It's if you can stop certain parts of that and then take them other places is when it all starts to change and where you can find those advantages.
Get ourselves a Diablo ban here. Hasn't made himself into the ban so far throughout today too frequently, considering his dominance in North America over the past couple of weeks. What do we get from Freedom, though? Is it a Maiev ban? Are they concerned with the Maiev after Endemic first picking in the last game and still getting a victory? No, it's instead the mid to late game offlane pressure. I think that that should be a tell, in my opinion, if you're Endemic, on how you need to be approaching this game.
One of the things is try sieging up in a lane that Junkrat's at and watch that concussion mine come down right where you're at. Oh, you want to come in here? I welcome you in. That does leave open several key heroes. Maiev, Whitemane, Tyrande.
Maybe even a Hammer.
That is also true.
We haven't gotten any of her yet, but Whitemane is the first pick here from Endemic. No surprise. Well, a little surprising with Tyrande. This battleground puts her over Tyrande. I think this is the biggest thing to point out there. In my brain, some people might disagree.
I think that's a general consensus. Everybody seems to like Whitemane on this one. Yeah, potential healing throughput.
I mean, I think a lot of pros do. It's just Tyrande right now objectively seems to be universally considered first pick, first ban. So I was just saying, this is the only outlier battleground where I go, I actually don't snap just pick my Tyrande in all cases. But we got her after. It's all good. We get the Urel and the Tyrande here from Freedom.
Endemic, they've liked the Johanna on this map. Have the opportunity if they want to play around Shrine control here. Always have to consider, as you said already, the Sergeant Hammer in any of these drafts.
I was just, oh man. So I was going to say this, but I didn't think there was any way they did it. If you pick Whitemane, Task, Johanna in your 1-3 on almost any battleground, you can pick almost anyone in those other 2 roles, and it really is not going to be a bad comp. It's very weird that they like cross-enable one another, that they have a good enough wave clear between Task, Johanna, enough self-sustain and damage output between the Whitemane, Tassadar. I like the draft from Endemic. It's still a little bit slow, doesn't get as much initiation capabilities, but it's a powerhouse comp here for sure.
You know a hero who I would love to see?
Lunara.
Well, not quite.
Okay.
I was thinking more frontline.
Okay.
A hero that has always been objectively strong on this battleground
Zarya.
and has paired well in the past with a Tassadar.
Tell me it's the Zarya.
No.
Dang it.
But it is another female warrior, and it is Sonya.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
I would love to see a Sonya really get onto that back line of a Tyrande. I mean, it's always paired well with Tassadar in the past. Strong on this battleground, always has been, seemingly always will be. Something to consider as the Zul ban comes through.
You know what, J-Hal? You just answered the Zul meta. You just pick Sonya and take self-cleanse on snares. And then every time you meet Bone Prisons, you just go spin to win, boys don't care.
Hurricane.
Double off-meta warriors there. But not off-meta here is Freedom. The Nubarak and Greymane in the 1-2 here from them, still keeping up the siege. What do we get from Endemic? They need off-lane clear. They showed that with the Junkrat. They know they want to hyper carry because of the TAS. I'm going Lunara, I'm telling you. I don't think we'll pick it, but Malthael, Cassia.
Lunara of all heroes. That's the first time I think I've heard you say that.
Yeah. In the hyper carry role, she was one of the best. I think she's not given enough credit for what she can do in that role. She doesn't have the same damage output she used to have in the past exactly through the poison threat, but eventually she becomes that big of a problem. And these comps usually are making it that well to the later stages of the game to where I wouldn't mind if Lunara suddenly kind of poked and brought her way back in a little bit. Tyrande, though, has a lot of spell armor to be able to deal with her dot. I think that's one of the part of concerns, but I think a double leaping strike usually can one-shot a Tyrande with, you know, considering other damage output sources at that point in time. Just figured she might have a place. Because I can tell you this much. I'm struggling with the we ban Vala and then we force Cassia's, because Cassia's good under certain parameters, and I feel like she's getting forced a little bit hard. Don't get me wrong. She's a hyper carry, but not always.
But this is a situation with Gul'dan now. You always have to highlight the shorter auto attack range for Cassia. It does make you more vulnerable to CC opportunities. The Nubarak comes in. You've got the stun. You've got the horrify potential. There is a lot. Cassia will have to rely on that white mane for the cleanse if needed. The Johanna kind of self-cleanse. There's a lot to keep alive. So it does keep the priority target or focus on keeping Cassia alive. Everybody else kind of has their own self-sustain options there. And then you have the bonus shielding there for whatever arises. So the draft is there, but the Gul'dan on the other side really intrigues me.
Yeah, she has some talents that she can take as well to be able to be more independent sustain as well on the Cassia. So it is a kind of cool composition. I'm just saying, generally speaking, this isn't so much in this one, but overall, I'm surprised at how much North America is still sticking towards the Cassia whenever Vol is taken away.
I believe stage 3 now for our spray is available, so new mount, all that fun stuff. You can check out that information there. We finished up part 2, phase 2. I think it's called phase.
You know what?
Of the sprays.
Let's just say any word that may be representative of a small fragment of time and just call it a day, you know? I mean, that's beautiful in itself. We could just call it a day. No?
It's a beautiful day.
Charge strikes at 1, I believe, right?
Yeah.
No mix-up there. On to the Cassia. That is part of the reason she is such a hyper carry, is with that level 1. It puts her in a position to really be pretty much the scariest hero in Heroes of the Storm if she gets a fully auto attack. But you raised a great point. The Gul'dan is really likely to be able to make her time a little bit more difficult. But going into the Echo Corruption build puts him more poke focused here.
Oh. Great. Nice juke there by Kyrja.
Yeah, that was clutch.
We've seen the pickup as well lately for the movement speed and the passing through targets. Gul'dan stacks are key to the success of Team Freedom. We also mentioned it last week against the white mane, because they did bring in the Gul'dan versus Octalysis when the white mane was on the other side.
Yeah.
You can use that. You get the Scarlet Aegis out, and then Gul'dan comes in with the Horrify. So Lutano will potentially look to follow up on that. 7 stacks so far on that Corruption.
One of my kind of questions for this game are going to be, do we still get the Starfall because of the Horrify? They aren't so counter synergy that it's that problematic if you end up picking it, but I can see a justification for deviating away from the Starfall and going with the Shadow Stalk just to make sure you get a little bit more healing there and not so stuck to a territory. As Dansky going to eat that Lunar Flare, but Big Impact has the heals. 1-7 comes through, has the opportunity to pick up that cleanse, which I'm sure will be able to help this all-in opportunity from Freedom a little bit better.
We're also seeing continuing to go into the Hardened Carapace at level 4, which Tassadar, fast ticking damage with the Psystorm going down. So the movement speed is one thing. If you go in, maybe you can make your way out. But if you get the cooldown reduction at 7, another way to play into it. See if he continues down that path.
Shaman's time near evenly between the two teams. But with Bottom Shrine spawning in 5 seconds, Tassadar's making his way over. JL, Team Freedom, they don't want to fight over this. They want that offlane pressure, and they're showing it. Greymane just showed himself on top. We'll see what Endemic does. Cassia already on her way up while the rest of the 3 go for the clear. Endemic showing they knew what the offlane pressure plan was here for Freedom.
Well, that does bring another dynamic to the Cassia pick, is that whenever we would see something like the Juice Pirates, you want to get that backdoor strategy. Cassia has always been one of the best counters. So if you can get in that position, that is something you can thwart some of those autos. As the fight breaking out here, small lead for Team Freedom, but they're starting to back away as BKIT doing some zoning. This Collusion and Lutano will look to regroup and try and re-enter the fray as the chase comes in.
Bakur's pretty low on that mana on Malthael. Don't know how long he'll be able to stick into the rest of this fight. 35 skeletal defenders for Freedom. Only one more rotation of spells from Gul'dan needed, and they pick it up. Punisher acquired. The Burrow Charge lands onto Dansky. No Impale to land onto the kill target, but a Punisher here and Siege behind it.
They're already rotating that Anubrak and Greymane out again. See how much they commit. The jump warned by the Iron Skin of a Johanna. Dansky will eat the Lunar Flare. Malthael trying to match in terms of damage as Lutano continuing to stack 16 out of those 40.
Flying comes out from BKIT, stopping a little bit extra damage here on the bottom half. This Punisher is making a lot happen, J-Hal, for being a 3 versus 3 on the bottom half of the battleground. I can't help but feel like Endemic maybe regrets sending only 3 to defend here on bottom, as that is massive damage out from that Gul'dan. Lutano getting the threat is Cure already used, or excuse me, Cleanse already used. Dansky is just gonna get tracked by Nasmus. Passive use, one more. Not going to channel there.
Oh, to make matters worse, Malthael died in the defense in the top. So now this is where the Anubrak Greymane goes in. They are making more happen. So to take down a fort in the bot lane, prep this top lane, get it down, get the kill onto Malthael. Things are going from bad to worse for Endemic here in the early game. By the time we get to the next Punisher phase, because that lasted so long, Endemic will be close to rounding the level 10, but Team Freedom already has a 1+ level lead.
This is, I mean, devastating if you're an Endemic fan. This big of a lead with this composition playstyle is a little bit too much. And normally, JL, what you see in that type of situation is Freedom, you're like, oh, that was a lot of damage on top, a little bit of damage on bottom. It doesn't hurt yet. It's going to hurt in the future eventually, but not quite to this time. So it's like Freedom just hit a experience power level in this composition like 5 minutes earlier than they normally feel it. And at this point, it's not their game to lose yet, but it's getting close here.
And they're right back up on top of it. Nasmus just zoning out on this Urel. Get the jump over. Dansky coming through. Zugrug should have the Burrow Charge out. Indeed does. And to further your point, that top lane is where the next shrine is. If Team Freedom gets that next Punisher, it's almost indefensible.
Yeah.
With no side tower, that's last year, and no front gate or tower to buy some distraction from the minions, that fort is forfeit. And then you look at those keep towers. That's where the experience starts to accumulate. So Team Freedom has primed that top lane to potentially blow this game open.
To add salt to the wound, they also have an Anubrak, which is one of the best. Hey, you want to solo defend this? We're just going to cocoon, kill your fort, then we'll kill you afterwards. It's very hard to not show up as a 5-man, but you show up as a 1-2 and they still get kills on top of it. It's kind of a I mean, not kind of. It very much is a lose-lose scenario, and it's why Freedom is almost at that point where it feels like they can't drop this on Infernal Shrines.
Oh, this is beautiful. They're going to get the bottom camp as well. If they make the rotation up, actually, they're going to forgo that. I'm surprised with the Greymane.
There's a rotation available that, ooh, man, that I would like to see from Endemic, or excuse me, from Team Freedom here, with the aggressive shrub, you know, the kind of horseshoe shrub over to the right-hand side next to the Impaler camp of Endemic. With that Anubarak Greymane remaining there, long distance of safety in terms of kill potential with the Tyrande, and if nobody responds, then you just go, well, we've got Keep.
Dread, if Freedom picks this up, you could easily see Keep Wall into that mid-fort rotation due to the early prepping they've done there. The bottom camp will work its way towards that Keep Wall in the end. Endemic, they need a victory in a team fight, and it has to start right here. The Shaman camp being dealt with. That's going to be cleaned up as the fight will break out momentarily. And Endemic, they need everything, else this could spell trouble.
But you can see Lutano really setting the health bars of Freedom already ahead of that of Endemic. Lutano will be the kill target if Endemic does initiate. We'll see if they can find it here. As 20 skeletal defenders, Nasmus leaping forward, Yoda falling below 50% thanks to Dansky. Maybe want to back out and tap. Collusion giving a couple of heals. Nasmus leaps forward. 10 more skeletal defenders, but here they go. Collusion's the focus. Last Rites is down with the Blessed Shield, but he heals through. Beacon now is going to get turned on, and that is the first to drop here as Freedom find their first victim. White Mean out of the cocoon in 2. But Zugrug gets the heals. Can he stay alive? Oh my. How do they do it? Now the Punisher leap onto Dansky. It's actually not going to execute and find him fast enough, but Endemic has to run up.
For every member that Endemic loses, this will go from bad to worse. Anubarak dead. Yoda, however, that's a trade out that's actually favorable for Endemic. They will lose another member. It's the fort taking some damage. 4 for 2 trade when it's all said and done. This is not the pushing comp that you want of the Gul'dan Tyrande. B-Kid will be able to bait this over.
It's not terrible as long as they can get that middle gate and front wall down fast. But I don't think they're going to have the damage output fast enough there. Gul'dan not scaling hard enough yet. The later stages, if he can get, you know, a couple more Qs, Echo Corruption completed, it puts you in a position to maybe be able to zone off there. So good job from Endemic. I think part of the reason you saw that decision making as well is not only the Greymane split push afterwards, but that Punisher, whenever you move down, that's when it suddenly can start leaping. He gets confused, Jayho, until you go where he knows he needs to go, which is in the lane itself. If Endemic showed, that would have been just a 3-man Punisher leap into the alley-oop of Freedom.
In the end, Team Freedom, they got the Keep Wall. That's a major chunk of XP, and then they got that mid-fort, all prepped from the beginning of the game. From minute 2 to minute 3 to minute 4. Everything that they've done amounted to that push right there. This is exactly how they play. They've executed it, maybe not flawlessly, but they've put themselves into an almost 3-level lead. They have all forts down. That bottom camp still being cleared out, but Endemic is making use of making sure not to clear that so they don't push that lane out for experience. Team Freedom will move forward.
Seems like this may be the most realistic fight Endemic can maybe have throughout this game, but they want the 13 before the 16 is acquired.
Here comes Mouthdale.
They're going to try and force. Gul'dan is going to be the target. Lutano able to survive for now. The blind comes out. He's got the armor. Last Rites plus the self-sustain. It's going to make that one not count there as the Aegis drops by big impact, and Endemic have to retreat.
Team Freedom. I can't say what hasn't already been said. I mean, they are putting on a clinic in terms of this is how they play. And when they get a lead on this map, however small it is, as time goes on, that banked XP that you mentioned at the top is there's a raw stun. Followed up, the Impale not able to land. Cure, there's going to be the Cursed Bullet. That's going to be Mouthdale falling.
No mount attempt there for the Sentinel to get the interrupt onto, but 20 seconds without a Mouthdale. Freedom picking up the 16, should be able to get this damage. They're trying to time the Impalers on bottom with this pressure through mid. Tassadar without the 16 and stat advantage heavily against him, not going to have an easy clear there. And now just rid of the battleground pressure that Endemic could get in the downtime, starting with the Shaman.
That just helps them out because they'll use that just to take away that you mentioned, but they have their own Shaman Camp, which can push during the next objective. They'll time that to warrant a response. Endemic Dread, no matter how you cut it, they'll be down 2 to 3 levels by the time this starts with all keep walls, minus that tower we saw on the right side of the screen there. All the keep walls are down. So any Punisher beyond this is threatening keep and core. You have a Johanna that can wear a leap and bait it over to a keep, but that does not help make up for the experience deficit, because even if you give this up for free, play that game and you can bait it over, you'll still be fighting into 20 talent tier, and Team Freedom will keep you dancing.
And even if Endemic wins a kill here, for instance, Team Freedom can just rotate bottom and threaten the keep with the Anubarak Greymane as long as they aren't the kill target. So they're in a really good position no matter really how you cut it here, JL. And that's why Endemic not showing too much interest. Now, Freedom has an interesting moment here. They can snap, pick it up, and siege through mid, or they can delay and prep the battleground better into their position. The biggest thing here, though, is making sure they don't wait long enough for the 16 to ever be a realistic option, and that's what they end up doing here. I was wondering if they're going to waste a little bit more time and go for bottom 2 extra waves and make sure it's a double threat, but not want to risk that 16 window. Freedom, they can smell blood in the water here.
Johanna is the key target. You can see B-Kid here on the top right of your screen. He will throw out the blind, use his Iron Skin, not even needed. He's in position, does not get the bait all the way up to that keep. And now the middle keep being assaulted by Team Freedom. Punisher down to 60%. Another leap will be coming in a few seconds. They need to start to spread out.
Cure eats the leap, eats the cursed bullet, but able to survive. As the look at that, horrify, splitting all of Endemic.
Oh,
focus
Echo
on
Corruption.
The core. They're trying to get the damage out. Freedom falling pretty low here, 80% and counting. Endemic going with the Fen. They end up hitting the 3-man burrow charge, but look at Yoda, too healthy there, along with the rest of Freedom. And after that, able to take game 2 here, and now find themselves 1 game away from moving on to take on Team Octalysis.
If you have not watched Team Freedom the entire year, this is exactly who they are through 2 games. Like, they do not look any different. They will run this style of composition about 90% of the time. And when you don't have effective answers for it, it will be 3-level leads for them every step of the way.
It's really hard for me to know how to approach this because it feels avoidable. But at the same time, last time Endemic played them, they dismantled it. So do you really look at them and go, come on, guys? Because last time they may have gotten false positives thinking...
It's the exact same drafts.
I mean, yes, it is. But why are we not successful this time, right? Like, what are those factors coming? I think it's really interesting. Like, I personally go, there's no way I would ever let a team pick this level of comfort this many times in a row unless I think it is objectively so worse that I am upset with my team if we ever drop to it. And there's very few comps that are that good. And so I think it just puts it into a weird position where I'd be like, I'm already upset that we've gotten 2 games at that point. But at the same time, I can see a world where you're like, we did it before, why can't we do it now? Just the question is playoffs the time to figure out that answer?
You know what really shines to me in this draft? Junkrat during the first ban phase, that was one of the answers before. Yeah. It's like, you siege up, here's a concussion mine, welcome to my world. Instead, that was not for that game. We'll see if Team Freedom can close this series out or whether Endemic can start to fight their way back. We'll be back after this commercial.